20 years ago, a seed was planted and cared for. We painstakingly nurtured it and weathered it against adversity until one day it blossomed and the fruits of our labor began to show. Today, millions have learned, shared, and been inspired by what our community has produced. We proudly served 21 million users from 204 countries in 2019. For our 85,000 technical articles, code samples, and videos, our 450,000 forum questions, and our highly anticipated conferences and events featuring keynote panels, live streams, and industry experts and influencers, we recognize and reward members for their dedication to the community. Through content contributions and mentorships, we ranked number 2,620 in the world with a reach of millions across our social media channels. Thanks to you, our global community of software and data developers grows stronger each day. For more information, visit us at CSharpCorner.com.
Good morning and welcome to another episode of Growth Mindset Show. Today is Friday, as we are on here every Friday. My name is Mahesh Chand. I'm a founder of CSharpCorner and a host of this Growth Mindset Show. All right, I feel like a little tired, sleepy today. Let's wake up. Come on. All right, so today is going to be a little exciting show. We are not going to focus on one specific topic, but we're going to focus on some few topics based on, I know a couple of people ask me questions about how do I become a software architect. So one topic we are going to cover today is software architect, how to become a software architect, not in detail. Detail is coming, later in a next episode and in future sometime. And we're also going to talk about startups. So the reason is I'm involved in 2-3 new startups recently. So we're going to talk more about startups. I'm going to talk about what I'm reading. It's like summer is almost there, so I'm reading new things. So we're going to talk about that. We're also going to talk about some of the upcoming conferences. We're going to talk about that. But before everything else, everybody, welcome to the show. If you are joining us first time, welcome to the show from, if you're joining us from Asia, good evening, Europe, good afternoon. If you're US, good noon. It's noon time, 12 here. Again, this show is for you. You ask all questions and I try to answer those questions. If it can be any questions, right? Question doesn't have to be focused on this show, but it can be any topics. So we take all the questions. If you are a software architect, as you probably saw, if you saw my tweet or LinkedIn post, if you are a software architect, you want to join us behind the scene, come live and share your journey. How did you become a software architect? We would love to hear from you. So yeah, get ready. Second half, we will bring you in the show. So if you are an enterprise architect or software architect, or you were a software architect, but you don't do it anymore, we would like to hear from you. So everybody, let's get started. Before everything else, I know there's a lot of problems going on in Afghanistan. It's a big deal here in the US. 13 soldiers died, as I saw the news. And there's 60 more people died from Afghanistan. So it looks like pretty sad news out there. Looks like Afghanistan is again in big chaos. Who knows what's going to happen? Hopefully, I don't know. In this situation, we don't even know if we can even help and how we can even help. So just hope everything goes well in coming time. Hopefully, everybody calms down and doesn't become a big chaos like in the past. COVID cases is still not slowing down. I think it's growing a little bit here in the US, and I also see throughout the world. Hopefully you are safe, your family's safe. Good news is that like deaths are low, at least here in the US. So hopefully you are safe. I hear news that a lot of people are still getting COVID, so stay safe, and obviously wear mask if you're going somewhere, and follow the guidelines. Venkat, Deepak, good evening. Pradeep is joining us from Kathmandu, Nepal. Uh, Everybody, please share your comments. Where you're joining us? Do you enjoy this growth mindset show? We will share your comments. What you like, what you don't like, any topics you want us to cover. And I know we got some questions about covering a topic last week on cloud native and called cloud. So I believe we already had a show on cloud native in the past, but we will continue to take different topics. But next week, I am working on a new topic next week, which we will talk about, and I'm also writing an article on that. Is on CTO, Chief Technology Officer. CTO is one of the most important role in technology. This is the person. So in my next show, we are going to talk about CTO, what CTO does, what is CTO's his or her role, and then how to become a CTO, how people become CTO, and who are the, what is their salary and anything around CTO. We are going to cover in next week's show, next Friday. We're also going to cover more on startups today. Also, we are going to talk about startups. If you have any questions about startups or company, any questions about that, we will feel free to post your questions as well. So first thing first, let's get started. Simon, you ready? So we have a few upcoming conferences. Uh, as you may already know, we had this Azure Summit. Now we are calling it Cloud Summit. Yes, we've changed the name of, Simon has changed the name, team has changed the name from Azure Summit to Cloud Summit. So definitely highly recommend you attend that. It's a 10 days conference, a lot of learning. A lot is Azure, mostly Azure, but now we are switching Azure to cloud. So goal will also is that we will do not only just Azure now, in future we will do AWS and Google and other cloud focused conferences as well. Because these days, if you're working in a large corporation, okay, you're working in a large corporation where they have several thousand employees, chances are your company is probably using multi-cloud. Multi-cloud really means is you use multiple clouds for different things, and that's really we want to go that route as well. So if you see on the social media that there's different posts coming up from that previous accounts, is because we changed the name, and because mostly for legal reasons, Microsoft said, hey, we can't use the name Azure in our conference, so we just end up changing that. No, not a big deal, because cloud makes even more sense for us, so that was good. um, and then we have few other upcoming conferences, and one of the conference coming up is on software architecture. So, and I think call for speakers is open now. So if you are a software architect, you want to speak, or if you are a developer, want to become a software architect, obviously every developer should be learning how to become a software architect anyway. That's kind of the most prestigious and top paying and highly, and you know um, highly in demand job right now is software architect. Yeah, and software architect, all kind of application architect, enterprise architect, all that, but they all include some kind of architecture. So this conference, I think it's going to be a 2 day conference, I would say. Probably 2 day, it depends on how many speakers we get. Focus will be just on software architecture. So this is second year now. We did this one in last year. It was very successful. We talked about on different topics on software architecture. We had good speakers, and I think, Simon, if you scroll down, you can see some of the past speakers here. They're great speakers. They're all hands-on experience on software architecture. So this is the goal with it, that people will come, they'll talk about different we'll talk about cloud architecture, cloud native, talk about microservices architecture, talk about general software architecture, We may also bring design patterns and some of other tools in architects. What tools architects use, what kind of whole software development life cycle. In general, everything about software architecture. Uh, so this is definitely a good conference to attend, if you ask me. Even though if you're 1 year experience, 2 year experience, doesn't matter. This will give you a lot of insights for your, path. And then we have a conference coming up on blockchain. After that, I believe this is coming right there. We have a blockchain conference coming up. And this, what's the date on that? I can't really see. It's in November. Um, this is all about blockchain. So we're gonna, I don't know, it's going to be probably 2 or 3 days conference, or maybe bigger. We're still working on it. So this is where you learn all blockchain, build your smart contract, NFTs. I know you probably heard of NFTs now. Everybody's talking about NFTs. I just wrote an article on NFT details. So we'll talk about that. So this will cover all blockchain topics. Goal is really try to do that 2 days. Then we have two more conferences this year. One is on startups. That's also in November, and that's usually for startup founders or somebody who's starting a startup. So whole life cycle of a startup, how to start a company, take the legal precautions, register a company, and go funding, build a team, marketing, growth, sales, and all that entire life cycle from starting to end of a startup. That's what this covers in that. And then we have the last conference that's in December that's focused on .NET. So this is going to be .NET conference, everything about .NET. And I think by the time .NET 6 will be announced, I think they're announcing in October. So we will cover latest topics on that as well. So if you are a .NET speaker, definitely check out that page. And I believe Simon is going to have a call for speakers open already. If it's not, yeah, if you want to speak, just submit your talk there. And good luck with that. So that covers our upcoming conferences. Today's show again is going to be short. Um, it's mostly around. I don't have a topic planned. It's just because I was busy. It's just more about just general. We're going to talk about a little bit about our software architect, some startups, some blockchain, and if you have any questions in between, we will take those questions. So before that, summer is here. It's really hot. This week is super hot here, like 91 degrees, but it feels like India here. I grew up in India, so India can be hot in summertime. But I know right now India is probably, this is my favorite time in India. I grew up in a village in a Mathura district, and I think this is Sawan. The month of Sawan is beautiful. It's like a it's amazing, rain already or done, some rain is still coming, green. Yeah, it's a good time. It's a good time. Old memories. And I know this guy that is startup GoPure, one of the startup, GoPure, and these keep people keep posting those awesome gamer photos on social media, and I can get that in the US. So that's not good. That's like a teasing. Simon, you want to share a couple of those photos on social media? They're like so tempting. I feel like I should go back home and try to eat some of that gaver. Gaver is, I think it's a local sweet. I don't think it's whole India internet. It's a national sweet. I don't know. Anybody? Does anybody know if gaver is a, not this one? There's another post. If you come down. There should be some. Keep going down. That, yeah, this one of those. Come down one more. What's that? Yeah, that one. Those two looks really good. Anybody knows, is this a national sweet or is this a local? But this was my favorite sweet. I have to say that. Obviously, village you don't get a lot, but you only get 1 or 2 days in a year. But this has to be the best sweet ever. Yeah, share your comments if you think you ate this, you like it. What is your favorite sweet? Yeah, this guy. No, I need to go back. Can somebody ship me here? Come on, who's is Atul Gupta there? He can ship me maybe one packet. All right. So with that, I have been reading some, I thought this summer almost is over. I'm going to read some. So I ordered a bunch of books, refresh my memory. I ordered, Bhagavad Puran. I ordered a lot of Indian, mostly around Hindu mythology, philosophy, and Hindu books around those. And I try to remember my old days. So that's where I'm reading more. So you'll be seeing some more posts around those. Some you can ignore those if you like. Yeah, this guy's just posting whatever. Because usually I'm at night when it's like 1 a.m. or 12 p.m. 12 midnight 12 or 1 a.m. At that time I'm kind of spending a couple of hours just learning those new things. So yeah, so my Sanskrit probably, I can read Sanskrit, I can understand some, but there are some words, then I have to go and look for it. So that's kind of I'm doing research on that side. Sanskrit is good. It's hard. But best part with that is in Sanskrit, in one line you can fit the whole like one page meaning. That's why it's very good. Like it's literally like you have two lines, and then to expand those two lines, it may take you 2 pages. Anybody wants to talk about these topics? So go ahead, ask your questions and anything. Plus, if anybody wants to come jump in the studio behind the scenes, Simon, post? Can you post something so anybody wants to come hang out in the studio? Um, who else? Anybody else watching? Who's our regular? Not posting comment. All right. So let's talk about software architect. Um, Software architect is probably one of the most in demand and well-paying jobs in the industry. And almost every developer wants to become an architect. So what do you require to become an architect? And what are the key things you can do to become an architect, right? So that's important part. So before I talk about software, let's understand software development life cycle. When you build a software, and I'm talking about software means little bigger enterprise based software. I'm not talking about one page application that has one developer can go and develop it. I'm talking about bigger software like say banking software or financial software, or can be some insurance system where it's a lot of functionality, right? So when you're building these software, it could be a cloud based application, it could be whatever. When you build these systems, we all know that there's a software development life cycle where first you need to understand the requirement, what business wants or what users want, right? Then you have analysis and design where you think of like, okay, this is the requirement, this is the business requirement. Now, the after business requirement, you need to decide what technology are you going to use to build this new software system. That's a part of analysis and design. That includes like, okay, how long the system should last, what kind of data it is, what kind of database you're going to use, what kind of programming language you will use. Are there any API involved? Is there cloud involved? Are there backend system involved? Is there integration there? So that's all as a part of the system analysis, name design comes in there. Then you kind of start, make sure you do feasibility analysis. That's very important. Feasibility means that, when you're building this new system and you pick this technology, you pick this new language that's going to take you 1 year, but your feasibility says we have to launch this in 3 months. So that means it's not good. So feasibility includes your estimated time, your cost. Your business usually have budgets, right? Business have a budget that we can spend this much money on the software. So you have to look at all those and make sure the team you have, they can build that in the technology you're picking up. For example, if you are a Microsoft shop and all you know is C Sharp and .NET, and your team knows C Sharp and .NET and Azure and SQL, as an architect, you cannot just say, "Oh, I'm going to build this using Oracle and in Python, and I'm going to use Google Cloud." Out of sudden, sure you can build that, but out of sudden it's going to take your team longer because they're not expert. They don't know anything about the new technologies, right? So that kind of part of the feasibility analysis. Then it comes coding. Then you start really building the system. You start your UI UX design with coding, with API and all that. And then after that, the next phase is testing. You obviously say you have integration testing. Then you have UATs, and then you go live in production. And then there's bug fixes and more next phase and all that. So that's kind of pretty much in a brief when you build a system. That's how the whole life cycle is. So architect, the software architect, is the person who sits in between of this whole entire development software development life cycle from requirement. So architects should also involve in understanding the requirements. If this thing is not clear, with project manager, make sure they're clear. Then architects are also in the participating in the design and analysis. Architects are also participating in deciding what technology to use, what kind of system do we using a design pattern, are we using libraries, are we using third-party components, what are we doing? It's a part of that. So software architect is the guy with working with other team members, depending on the how big the project is, to decide that. The software work with also set up the teams like a QA team. So they're going to then also involve with the DevOps, make sure that one system is ready to test being deployed, right? So it's like whole entire life cycle. So that's what software architect does in brief. We can go and spend like 5 days on just talking about this, but that's kind of you get the brief idea. Now, if you want to become a software architect, what are the skill set requires? Well, first of all, it's not something you can just wake up and say, I want to become an architect and let me go do this and I become one, right? That's not the case. First of all, you need to have an experience. Most architects are usually 10 plus years experience, sometimes even 15. There are architects with 20 years experience. So you have to have experience. You have to have experience building systems, different kind of systems, um, bigger systems, right? You cannot say, oh, I created an app, one page app, and it does bring the database and all that. It has 2 pages, and I'm an architect, right? So that's one thing. Second thing is you need to have understanding of fundamentals, understanding of design patterns, and also design best practices, then also about the technology. So all that comes with number of experience working with number of systems. Then there's no certification, by the way, for software. It's not something where you can just go and get certified and say, "No, I'm an architect." It's really hands-on job. It's really you have to do it. You should be able to do it because if you don't know how to do this, your system will fail. An architect is the main guy who sits behind, between the midst of all the team members and work with everybody. Sometimes architect, I work on different companies. As an architect, you also go when system is ready, even though smaller phases, even though it's a POC, even it's a first release, you go tech and also present to end users and also present to the clients and also present to the stakeholders. Sometimes you also have to convince stakeholders to um, give you more money for that project so you can add more features. So that's kind of all the above. And some lot of time any actually documentation is also a big deal. So system, when you during the system architecture and design, when you're designing, you end up writing a lot of documentation, which right now it's not a big deal. We don't write a lot of documents anymore, but you should be able to at least have some kind of design, which tells me that this system has this is the UI, this is the backend, this is the engine, this is API, this is the database. That's how they're all connected, where data is flowing, what format of data is going from where. I know I'm talking a lot of things. It's like I'm telling you the 25 years of work in like a few minutes. But this is I'm just giving a general idea. Uh, so and beside the technical skills, what else software an architect needs, right? Beside the technical skills, um, the beside the technical skills, I think software architects main key skill you need is the communication. That is very important. You have to be really good at communication. And why is that important? You're like, well, I'm technical. Why do I have to be good at communication? Because communication is the key to sit down. You're going to sit down with your business people. You're going to sit down with your end users. You're going to sit down with the team. You're going to sit down with everybody involved in that software. And you should be able to understand, communicate easily, and also be people person. So one is having good communication skills, other is being people person. I see a lot of architects, they are very arrogant. They are like they're just they're not they don't understand people, and then it creates a lot of conflict. The conflict, the businesses. So I remember some companies where the business owners, stakeholders, like this guy, I don't like this guy who made the architect, right? It's just because the way they communicate. They sometimes some architects think they are too good. Sometimes they're like so end goal is that you have to have good communication skills. You should be a people person. That will help you. You don't have to, but it should be. It's a good idea to have that. Understand where people are coming from, because business person is coming from his side, his or her problem side. Developers have their own issues. Then tester may come up with their own side, and DBA is thinking, So it's like you are like kind of the key person, keeping everybody, holding everybody together to get this product, out of the door so people can start using it. So we have Ledger. Welcome to the show again. Definitely, we are here. We love to have you here every week. You are coming every week. This is great to have you here. Thanks for your comment. I appreciate it. So yeah, today we are talking about just general topics, nothing specific. We are just talking, we just talking about software architecture. We will talk a little bit about startups. We will talk about something else you have in mind. Just feel free. We'll stay hang around as long as you have questions. So any questions about software architect you have, just ask. Just feel free to ask. Um, if you want to know more about software architecture, we had a software architecture conference last year where in my keynote and even our panels, we talked about a lot of these topics. So Simon will probably post you that URL. So check that out. And again, we have another software architecture conference coming up as well. So that's really now there's a lot of things have changed in software architecture recently in last couple of years, and every year they're changing. So now biggest innovation I see in software architecture is the cloud native. Even though not every application is cloud native right now, but that's in coming time, cloud native is going to become very important. And in the simplest reason for that is really because cloud native infrastructure architecture, things are already built for you, they're already deployed in the cloud, they're all ready to go. You just have to set them up, configure them, put your application there, and it just works. It just saves everybody so much time. So keep an eye for that. If you say, hey, I want to learn something new, I want to upgrade myself, go check out, learn some cloud native. Just search what is cloud native, what is cloud native architecture, what are different components of cloud native. I think I wrote an article, what is cloud native, on CSharpCorner. That kind of gives you a basic understanding of cloud native. um, uh, at least to get started, just so you know exactly. All right, so there's a couple of questions here. Let's take some questions. First of all, thank you for asking questions, guys. It looks like somebody's at least awake and listening, and so I'm not just sitting around here talking, right? Questions make this conversation better, right? Otherwise, I, you know, I used to be the guy where I'm really in the room with in front of people, communicating, walking around, really looking at people. Now here being virtual, it's important these comments come, questions come, because this gives me the same feeling, right? All right. So there's a question from Hisham. To become an architect, what should we focus in terms of technical ability? To focus on one technology stack like .NET deeper, or having exposure working with all the SDLC stages, or we should have exposure with multiple technology stacks. So you don't have to have a exposure with multiple tech stacks. You can just be a .NET architect, okay? When you say .NET architect means you are an architect, you build .NET focused applications. It will be hard to become expert in and get exposure to all like .NET architect, Java architect, then cloud architect, then blockchain architect. That's probably not possible. When you are an architect, you usually specialize in one technology stack. That's how you are architect. And I'll take the next question later. But Besides being expert in that .NET, you should definitely understand the whole entire SDLC stages. Because remember, architect is not just writing the code. Architect is not just building the software. It's also communicating with a lot of people, right? So communication is good. Writing skills are important. Documentation design is as well. It's good part. And also understanding the fundamentals, object-oriented program fundamentals, like a design patterns and design best practices. So if you are a .NET, you are in .NET and you are become a .NET architect. If you go to Microsoft website docs, you look for architect, best practices, software architecture best practices. When you search for that, you will see um, one of the things. If I'm a software architect, the first thing you start with is these diagrams. That's the first thing you start with, the diagrams. So business will come to you. I'll give you my example, right? Business will come sit down to you. They don't even have a requirement right now. So they will say, Mahesh, oh, we need a new system that will take our data from a SharePoint database, and we're going to build some apps where users can use the mobile apps and they can access the data, they can upload files, they can do all that. That's what they will come up with. Then you should be, as an architect, is going to draw that diagram in simple terms, and then you can explain to the business that this is what I'm thinking. Does this make sense, guys? That user will have this app, they're going to log into the app through this using either integration with your Active Directory. So that's kind of the idea. So coding is good. You have to definitely know coding. You have to have experience, hands-on experience in coding. You cannot just say, oh, I know coding, right? You have to know technical skills, because when software developers will have a problem in your team, they're going to go to an architect to ask those questions. Architects should be able to help them as well. So back to your question, the answer is no. You don't need to be experienced and have knowledge of multiple stacks. Just focus on one stack. If you are a .NET, just become a .NET architect. Don't jump around on too many things. That's what my advice is. All right. So what we have few more questions, guys. Let all those questions come in. If hopefully, if you have more questions, post them. What we are going to do now is we're going to take a 2-minute break. And when we come back, we'll take more questions from a couple of you guys. Thank you for asking questions. And hopefully there are more questions coming up. So keeps us busy for next 20 minutes. I'll see you in 2 minutes.
Here at Mindcracker, we create artificial, virtual, and mixed reality games and apps, voice-enabled skills and apps, and intelligent apps, and integrate AI with IoT products. We offer advisory services for innovations and startups. We provide cloud and code security and performance services. We also offer AI/ML blockchain development, consulting, and training. Just visit www.mindcracker.us to make your dreams into a reality. Hey guys! Can't believe we haven't seen each other since graduation in May. What's going on?
Not much. With the pandemic, I can't really do anything right now.
Me too. I mostly just stay at home, hang out with my dog, and watch the news.
I feel you. Have you guys been able to get jobs yet?
Funny that you ask. Gary and I actually have been working on something together.
Yeah, we came up with an idea for a startup that's an app that will help us stay active since we both have been sitting around so much during this quarantine.
That's genius. I could definitely use something like that. When are you guys launching it?
Well, that's the issue. We don't really know how to build it, so we're kind of stuck.
I know of this company that does startup advising if you guys are interested.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they're called Mindcracker, and they'll help you validate your idea and connect you with angel investors and help you build everything from your product MVP to your technical team and even your go-to market planning and execution.
Wow, that's awesome. Do you know how we could get in touch with them?
Yeah, you can just visit their website, mindcracker.us.
That's awesome, May. Thanks. I'm excited to get started on this.
Of course. Good luck, guys, and let's talk soon.
Thanks, May.
All right, we are back. We are back. In the meantime, I got my tea. I had to warm up. If you guys, do you guys drink tea, coffee? Anybody, milk? What do you guys drink? Beer? You want to share what you guys drink when you're working? Like when you're really, you have 3, 4 hours or morning or afternoon when you're working. What do you drink? Drink soda. I know a lot of people drink soda. Some people drink coffee a lot. US, it's a coffee's main drink. Yeah, a lot of people drink coffee. I see a lot of developers drinking Diet Coke, Diet Pepsi, whatever. What do you guys drink? Share your thoughts. Let me see what you drink. I drink tea. I drink a lot of tea. Tea is Indian tea. Obviously, I don't know. Some are in India. They know what. But if you're not from India, or if you are not from that area, subcontinent, it's different. Tea is different. I make my own tea every day. It takes me like 10, 15 minutes to make it, but it's really hard right now. So that keeps me going. All right. So let's take a couple of more questions after on software architecture. Any other questions you guys have? Let's just ask those questions. All right. So Carlos asks here. First of all, thank you, Carlos, for joining us this Friday. Thank you for your question. Uh, can you be more specific? Not sure if you are talking about solution application or business software architecture. Uh, so to me, I think if you are an architect, right? So we can let's break down these architects. There's an application architect. So application architect is general term. Same thing can be applied for software architects, right? And business software architecture is same as any software. Like software you're usually building is for business. A business comes to you and they have a need, right? They'll say we need to solve this problem, and you build the software. So solution architect is different, and I think that's the next question we will take. That's a little different, and I'll talk about that as well. So to me, um, it depends on the size of the application, right? So when software is a program, right? Think of software. What is a software? Let's go back. I want to go back and understand what is a software. If you look at the definition, it's code. Okay, code built so it can run, it can do something. If you take some code, compile or put in a package, and it can do something, usually solve a problem, that becomes a software. Okay, for example, if you make a calculator application in C sharp, compiles it, make an exe and give it to me. Now I can run it. I can say 2 plus 2 is 4. Okay, that's a software. Software can be small software, it can be really big, it can be a whole enterprise wide website for a banking system. That entire thing becomes a software. So the architect, the person who is brain behind building that whole software, you can call it software application. Application, same thing. Okay, the person who's in charge of thinking about how to build that, what technologies to use, what components to use, how we're going to deploy, what kind of operating system we are targeting, what kind of memory we need, what kind of database we need, depend on the size of the software. This is the person, is the architect. That's the person behind the whole thing. It's software architect. Hopefully that kind of answers your question. If it doesn't, still please ask more detail. Okay, so Bhaskar says, yeah, he drinks black coffee. Yeah, I don't know. I can drink black coffee once in a while. Yeah, it's good, but I don't know. It's really not. Coffee plus tea. That just says drinks coffee and tea. That's a good combination. That's good. Um, how many you drink? That's the question, right? How many? See if you can beat me on that. How many you drink in a day? Um, all right, so let's look at there was another question while you are posting this. Yeah, so let's just say there what is difference between software architect and a solution architect, and that's a great question. It's a little people get confused in this often. Um, so solution architect versus software architect, right? Solution is a in and there's also a word called enterprise architect, right? That's totally different. Solution architect and software architect are kind of, it depends on the company, it depends on the size of software companies, depend on the size of application you're building. But when you're building a solution, okay, solution is often involved with multiple applications, multiple data sources, multiple there's connectivity going on between. It's just not one software. Okay, it's just not one application. When I say software architect, anybody who's building and architecting one application, it could be just a Windows application. Okay, let's take an example. Let's say you have a Windows application. It has a database in the background, and it has some, reports, for example, some grids and all that. You can be just architect that. You can become this. That's your application architect and software architect. That's how you do that. But in solution is not just one application. Usually it's multiple applications, different data sources. So now your role as an architect widens, right? You have to understand with multiple data sources. You understand that what the connectivity is. There an API, there's data going back and forth, what the format of data is. So that's what makes you solution architect, and that's what solution architecture is, that you are building a complete solution. I'll give you an example. For example, there was one system we designed. It was a website for a company. They were dealing with patients, right? So there's patients can log in, doctors can log in. So that's one side of it. But the data from the patients was coming from a third-party system that already stored, right? So now data is coming from there. But data from this system was also going in a SAP. And then SAP also, there's other reporting tools on top of SAP where other departments of the same company were using same data. And then we were also getting data in another application, reporting Excel sheet in PDFs and so on and so forth. So that entire system becomes a solution, right? So these are just some terms you use: this application, the system, that's kind of, but when you say software systems, literally it can be one or it can be multiple applications combined together, working together. So hopefully this answers your question. And then there's another role is called enterprise architect, right? So enterprise architecture is more, every time I talk to, have friends, they're enterprise architect. They're not so much software architects. Their background is actually more into IT, understanding the security, understanding the logging, authentication, understanding the integration, understanding the DevOps, and how the company's whole infrastructure work. And then they talk to the software architects where they can take the applications and also integrate that. So enterprise architect's role is bigger than software architects or a solution architect in general. Some companies use these terms interchangeably. Means some may call just software architects, some call solution architects, some just call architect. Okay, so that's kind of enterprise architect. So a lot of enterprise architects I work with, I don't do the whole that part. What they do, security, they do DevOps, they do authentication. I know all that, but they are the one who decides: are we going to use Okta integration for the authentication? Are we going to use what kind of pipeline are we going to use? Deploy the code from GitHub to automate to the QA and production and all that. So that's kind of the enterprise architects also understand more in the on the IT side, like what are the, as a company, what are our needs and what we need to build and all so on and so forth. So hopefully that answers your question. All right, so looks like everybody drinks 3 cups or 4 or 5 cups a day. That's pretty good. So I'm right there. I'm between, depending on the day, 3 to 5 cups. That's what I drink. So it's not bad. I thought I'm drinking too much. All right, so I think we covered those questions. They were very good questions, by the way. Thank you for asking the questions. Very common questions. A lot of people have those questions. We have few more minutes to spare here. So let's talk about startups. You want to talk about startups or you want to talk about something else, guys? Anybody wants to come join? Bhaskar, you want to come join in the studio? You want to share your stories? How do you become architect? We need somebody to come share their story, how they become a software architect. Yeah, so anybody wants to come, just come in. We can even have, I think, more than one person. Simon, more than one person can come in the behind the studio. That would be cool too. So while we see if somebody comes in the studio, let's talk about startups. Similar to SDLC, we just saw software development lifecycle. We also have SDLC in startup development lifecycle. I just call it. There's no. That's not what it's called, but I just call it anyway. It's a startup development lifecycle. Basically, how startup is, go from an idea to live, used by users. So startup is it's a company. It's really, you're building a brand new business, right? It's a brand new business. Um, often founders first come up with an idea, right? So startup, the key person in a startup is the startup founder or founders. There's multiple founders. They are the one who come up with the idea. Like, what is the idea? What problem are we trying to solve, right? So often, if you look at the history of startups, most founders come up with ideas because they were trying to solve their own problems. That's how most startups start. They had a problem either at the work or personally or whatever. Like, oh, I wish there was something like this. And they don't find anything. Like, you know what? Maybe I should build that. Maybe a lot of people will be interested in buying it or using it, and so on and so forth. So that's the founder is the key there, right? So startup founder comes up with an idea, and then now you have an idea. Let's say you want to build an app. For example, you want to build a tea, like we all drinking tea and coffee, and it takes me 15 minutes to make my tea. You will probably have somebody making you, that's great, but what if you don't have anybody making you tea and you're working? Well, what if I have an app where I can just somebody can just bring me a tea? I'm just saying it's a stupid idea, I know, but let's just go with me, right? Let's just go with me an idea. So we have this idea, and but in the app now, let's say we have this idea where I'm working. I just open an app, push a button, hey, bring me tea. So it's a delivery. Somebody's going to make it. But I can say what I want in my tea. I want, like, how much milk I want, how much sugar I want, how much anything I want. Do I want black pepper in it? Do I want ginger in it? All that. So I can put all that. So then I need somebody to build that app. That's what first thing I need. If I myself can build it, great, that'll be fantastic. But what if I am not a programmer or I'm not an app developer? Then what? That means I need somebody who can build me app. A lot of founders make this mistake that once the app is built, everybody just gonna go and use it. That's where they fail. They don't think beyond that. What they think is, starter founders, what they think is, okay, we have to wrap up soon. Simon is saying we have to wrap up soon. So let me finish this, then we'll wrap up. So the founders come up with the idea. What they make mistake they make is that biggest mistake, they think that once they build the app, everybody's going to use it. But that's not the case. The biggest problem comes in a startup is after you build it, how do you get to the users? How to get the user signups? Or if you're selling, how do you make them buy your product or your service? That's the biggest challenge. And after the biggest challenge with that, how do you sustain? Because once your app is done and it's live, it's going to cost you no matter what. Can you make enough money to sustain that over that time until you become a profitable? So that's where a lot of startup founders, they fail. They're like, oh, my first goal is like, somehow if I can have money or use my money, raise my money to build this app and launch it, I'm good. But that's not the case. This is only, if you ask me, this is only 15 to 20% of total work. Major work is after that. Major work is after you have a product, how you product sell it, give it to the users adapt it, they engage it, they stay back in there. That's when a lot of startups fail. So with that, what we will do in coming times, coming shows, I'm going to focus some of my shows just focus on startups. Some we will focus on software architecture. So I think in September we're going to start planning better ways now. So that's where I will finish today because there's no more questions. But with that said, next week we're going to talk about CTO. Now our focus will be on CTO. What a chief technology officer is, what is their role in companies, what they do there, how do you become one, and why do you want to become a CTO? All those questions we will talk about in our next Friday. With that said, Simon is kicking me out from here, And but I enjoyed a lot of questions, great questions, guys. Hopefully you enjoyed it like I did. Thank you so much for joining me today, and I will see you next Friday.